I want to start today with a riddle. Or, well, it sounds like a riddle, but it might just be the oldest, most frustrating question in human experience. Who am I?
It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
something you'd hear in a Philosophy 101 class or, at the start of a yoga session while you're trying not to wobble over.
Exactly. We tend to dismiss it as this abstract, navel-gazing thing for poets or people with way too much time on their hands. But the sources we're diving into today just completely flip that on its head.
They do. They suggest that who am I isn't just some question for the mind. It's actually the hidden heartbeat of, well, every major religion.
And it goes even further. The material we have argues that the answer to that specific question is the secret key to world peace.
Yeah, I know how that sounds.
It sounds like a massive claim. I mean, world peace. We think of the UN, of treaties, geopolitics, sanctions, and you're telling me the sources say the solution to global conflict is introspection.
That's the radical argument they're making. They're saying political treaties are just Band-Aids. They're Band-Aids on a fundamentally broken bone. If you don't actually set the bone, which is our misunderstanding of who we are, it's just going to break again.
And history kind of proves that out. We sign a treaty, things are calm, and then 10 years later, a new conflict erupts.
Because the root cause, what these texts call the ego, was never actually addressed.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty ambitious then. We're going to try to look past the external walls of religion, the temples, the mosques, the churches, the gurdwaras.
Precisely. Because from the outside, they look completely different. Different rituals, different languages.
Yeah.
But the sources ask us to look underneath the floorboards to find that deep spirituality that connects them all.
And the core argument is that while the methods might look different, the internal goal is identical.
It's the dissolution of the I, the ego to reveal the one, the ultimate truth.
We're talking about breaking boundaries today. Not just national ones, but the boundary of me.
We are. And we need to take this slowly. This isn't something we can just skim through. We're talking about a journey from duality, this idea that you and I are separate, competing beings to oneness.
Okay, let's get into it. We have sources that bridge two incredible traditions. Islam, through the mystical path of Sufism, and Sikhism. Let's start with the Sufis.
A beautiful place to start. The source introduces us to Tasawwuf, or Sufism. And right away, we get a term that is just. It's absolute dynamite for the ego. Wadat al-Wujud.
Wadat al-Wujud. Okay, break that down. The translation is unity of existence.
Yes, or non-duality. It's the core idea that existence is singular. There aren't two things. There isn't God up there and us down here. There's only one single reality.
That is so hard to wrap your head around. I mean, my eyes tell me everything is separate. I see a table, I see this microphone, I see you. I definitely feel like I am here and you are over there.
And that's the great illusion that Sufis aim to dismantle. They say your senses are tricking you. Think of it like a movie screen. You see a hero, a villain, a car chase, a sunset. They all look different, right?
Yeah.
Separate. But if you walk up and touch this screen, what is it really?
It's just one screen, one white sheet.
Exactly. The light projects many images, but the substance is one. Wadat al-Wujud is about seeing the screen, not just getting lost in the movie.
I like that, but how do you actually do that? How do you get to that realization? I can understand the idea of the screen, but I still feel like the main character in my own movie.
That's where the practice comes in. The process they use is called fana.
Fauna. The sources call this annihilation. And I gotta be honest, that sounds terrifying. It sounds like suicide. If I annihilate me, who's left to enjoy anything?
And that's the ultimate fear, isn't it? That is the ego's #1 defense mechanism. But fana isn't physical death. It's the annihilation of the self-concept.
It's the story of me.
Yes. The source brings up that really provocative phrase, die before you die.
Again, hearing that out of context, it sounds incredibly morbid. What are they actually asking?
It's not about stopping your heartbeat. It's about stopping the endless story of who you think you are. The you that gets offended in traffic, the you that needs to win an argument, the labels, the pride, the personal history. The Sufis say that false identity has to die while you're still alive.
Because only when that barrier is gone can you see what was there all along.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
imagine you're a single drop of water and you're terrified of evaporating.
Okay.
Fauna is the process of that drop falling into the ocean. So does the drop die.
As a separate drop, yes, it's gone.
But as water, it's become the entire ocean. It hasn't lost a thing. It's gained infinity.
Yeah.
And that's the partner concept of fauna, which is baka.
Baka is what remains.
And what remains isn't nothingness. What remains is the subsistence of Allah, of God. The source draws a brilliant parallel to Vedanta here. It says, It's when the jiva, the feeling of being an individual soul, disappears. What's left?
Only Brahman, the universal truth.
You realize you were never just the drop. You were always the water.
This all leads to a specific person in the text, someone who took this so literally it got him into, well, a lot of trouble. Mansur al-Hallaj.
Ah, yes. Al-Hallaj, one of the most misunderstood figures in history. He made a statement that just shook the foundations of the Orthodox world. He said, Ana al-Haq.
Which means, I am the truth.
Right. And the truth is one of the names of God. So imagine walking into a public square in the 10th century and yelling, I am God.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate. If I walk into my office tomorrow and announce I am God, I'm getting a call from HR and probably a psych evaluation. How is this different from a delusion of grandeur? It sounds like the biggest ego trip imaginable.
And that is the exact question they asked him.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly fair question. But the analysis in our source clarifies it beautifully. The difference is the source of the voice. He wasn't saying Mansur, this guy from Persia, is God.
No, he was speaking from the complete absence of his ego. He had undergone fauna, the eye had vanished. Think of a hollow bamboo flute.
When you blow through it, music comes out. The flute doesn't say, look at the beautiful music I made. The flute is empty. It's just a vessel for the breath. Al-Hallaj saw himself as that empty flute. When he spoke, he felt the only thing left to speak was the truth.
That is such a subtle but enormous distinction. It's not arrogance, it's the opposite. It's total transparency.
It is. And that idea that our separation is the core illusion is the perfect bridge to our next source as we shift from the Middle East to the Indian subcontinent and Sikhism.
Right, to the revelation of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And you see these incredible parallels in the historical context. He appears at a time of huge conflict between Hindus and Muslims.
They were defining themselves entirely by their differences. And then, after his enlightenment, what's his first major proclamation?
Na koi Hindu, na koi Musliman. There is no Hindu, there is no Muslim.
And, a modern take might be, oh, that's a nice call for secular tolerance. Let's all just get along.
But the source says it's so much deeper than just social commentary. It was a spiritual assertion of fact.
Yes. Because if everyone originates from the same Nur, the same divine light, then the labels aren't just irrelevant. They're factually incorrect. They don't describe what we truly are. It's like calling one part of the ocean Christian water and another Jewish water. It makes no sense.
And this leads right to the very beginning of the Sikh daily prayer, the Mool Mantar. It starts with Ik Onkar.
Ik Onkar. Now, the simple translation is often God is one, but there's much more there.
Go on.
If we just say God is one, we still imagine a single being, a king on a throne, separate from creation. But Ik Onkar implies a single continuous consciousness, a single vibration Onkar that is resonating through absolutely everything.
So it's not just that there is one God, it's that there is only the one. There is no second thing.
We're right back to non-duality. It's the same fundamental truth. But here, the sources give us a very specific diagnosis for why we don't feel this oneness. If this vibration is everywhere, why do I just feel like me? Worried about my bills.
The source calls this Homai.
Homai. It literally means I-ness, or I am.
And the text uses a really strong term for it. It calls Homai a dirarag, a chronic, deep disease.
A chronic disease. Let's just sit with that metaphor. A chronic disease isn't a sudden injury. It's something that lives inside the system day in and day out, coloring every single thought, every interaction.
So Homai isn't just about being arrogant or boastful.
No, that's just a loud symptom.
Yeah.
Homai is the filter itself. It's that constant narrator in your head. I want this. I'm afraid of that. They wronged me. I'm better than them. It is the fever of separation.
It's the wall.
It is the wall.
Yeah.
And this brings us to this beautiful principle mentioned in the text, the connection between the macro and the micro. Jo Brahman Thoi Pinde.
Whatever is in the universe is in the body.
Yes. Brahmande is the universe, the cosmos. Pinde is the body, this individual vessel.
This is the real aha moment for me, because we're always taught to look out for the big answers. We look up the stars, we search for God out there. This is saying, wrong direction.
It completely flips the script. It mirrors the who am I inquiry perfectly. If you look inside the Pinde, the microcosm, you find the entire Brahmande, the macrocosm.
So the same intelligence that spins the galaxies is in here, right now.
Yes, the same vibration, the same Ik Onkar is what's beating your heart. And the only thing telling you otherwise, the only thing blocking that realization is Homai, the ego that insists, no, I'm just this small, separate person.
Okay, so we have the diagnosis. In Sufism, it's the false self that needs annihilation. In Sikhism, it's Haumai, this chronic disease. The obvious question then is, what's the cure? How do you treat this?
Because you can't fight the ego with the ego, right? That just makes it stronger. The Sikh tradition offers a very potent medicine, and it's centered on the idea of hukam.
Hukam, divine will, or divine command.
Exactly. There's a line from Guru Nanak, Nanak hukmai ji bujai ta huma kahai na koi.
Which means if one understands the divine will, one does not speak in ego.
This is the entire shift. It's moving from my will, what I want, what I think should happen, to aligning with divine will. It's about flowing with the river instead of constantly trying to swim against the current.
The word surrender is tricky, though. To a modern mind, it sounds passive. It sounds like giving up, like being a doormat. Are they just saying we should sit back and let things happen to us?
And that's the biggest misconception. I'm glad you brought that up. In this context, accepting hukam isn't passive resignation. It is an act of profound, active alignment. Think of a master surfer.
Okay, I'm with you.
Does the surfer control the ocean?
No, not at all.
If they try to force the wave to go left when it's breaking right, what's going to happen?
They're gonna wipe out badly.
Exactly. But if the surfer surrenders to the wave, if they feel its power, align their body with its movement, and flow with it, they can do incredible things. They are totally active, highly skilled, but in complete submission to the reality of that wave. That is hukam.
That makes so much more sense. It's not giving up, it's getting in sync. The Source calls this becoming a sakyar, a truthful being.
And this leads to a beautiful paradox in the text. It says, Epa gavai tan kahupe.
Only when you lose yourself do you find him.
It's the principle of loss and gain, but it's completely inverted from how we usually think. We think we have to gain more knowledge, more status, more followers to find the truth. This says the path is through subtraction, through loss.
You have to lose the illusion to find what's real. And this connects perfectly back to the Sufi concept of fana. It's the same mechanism, removing the false I to reveal the true self.
And now we can finally come back to that huge claim from the beginning, world peace.
Right. How does this ancient mystical philosophy have anything to say about the crises we see on the news every single day?
This is where we have to be crystal clear. We think of world peace as a political problem, something to be solved with treaties, borders, and negotiations.
Yeah.
But the sources are arguing that those things are just managing the symptom.
You're not treating the disease.
The disease is haumai. The disease is the ego. Think about it. What is a national border? It is a line on a map that screams, this is mine, and that is yours. It is the ego projected onto the very landscape of the earth.
It's a physical manifestation of us versus them.
Exactly. If I believe that I am fundamentally separate from you, then my entire life becomes an act of defense and acquisition. I have a territory to protect. I have a God that is mine and not yours. I have resources I need to hoard from you. The ego absolutely thrives on separation. It needs an other to exist.
So all conflict, from a small argument to a full-scale war, is basically the ego trying to prove that it's real and right.
War is haumai with weapons. It's the ego in its most destructive, desperate form. So when these traditions talk about dissolving the ego, about fana, about removing haumai, they aren't just talking about some blissful personal state for a monk in a cave.
They're talking about the only permanent solution to violence.
Because if there is no me versus you, who is there left to fight? If I realize, and I mean truly realize, not just think about it, that the light in me is the very same light in you,
then hurting you is literally hurting myself.
it becomes an impossibility, it becomes an absurdity. You cannot wage war when the illusion of otherness has collapsed. You can't drop a bomb on your own reflection.
That's profound, and it completely shifts the responsibility for peace from governments and institutions to, well, to each of us, to the individual.
It does. It means we can't just wait for peace to be signed on a piece of paper. We have to become it. We have to generate it by dismantling the borders inside our own hearts. The walls of the mosque, the church, the temple, those are just bricks and mortar. The real walls are the ones inside us that say, I am right and you are wrong. My tribe is good and your tribe is bad.
So for you listening to this deep dive isn't just history, it's a practical internal call to action.
It is. It's an invitation to just watch your own how am I tomorrow. When you get angry in traffic, when you feel that sting of being slighted by a colleague, when that feeling of me against the world rises up, that is the chronic disease flaring up. That is the seed of all war.
And the cure is to come back to that question, who am I? To remember that the anxious, angry, fearful I isn't the whole picture.
Right. To realize those feelings are just clouds passing through the sky. They aren't the sky itself. You are the sky. You are the Baka. You are the silent, aware space that is watching the storm. And if enough of us realize we are the sky, the storms of war simply run out of energy.
This has been an incredible journey. From Sufi mystics in Persia to the gurus in Punjab, it really proves that the paths may look different, but they all lead up the same mountain.
Absolutely. The paths are many, but the destination is one. A place where all boundaries dissolve.
Before we go, I want to leave everyone with one final thought to mull over. We talked about dying before you die. We talked about the ego being an illusion. So here's the question. If the I that is anxious or bored, or even judging this conversation right now, if that isn't actually who you are, then who or what is listening to this deep dive right now?
Beautiful question. The answer might just be in the silence that follows it.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Goodbye, and seek the truth within. You know, there's this one question. It feels like it should be the absolute easiest thing in the world to answer. But if you actually sit with it for, I don't know, more than 5 seconds, it becomes maybe the hardest question in human history. Who am I?
It's the original question, isn't it? The one that kicks off the whole search.
Right. And usually we have a script for it. We answer with our resume. I'm a producer. I'm a father. I'm an American.
Or we answer with a census box. I'm Christian. I'm agnostic. I'm Hindu.
Yeah, we cling to these labels because they give us a sense of location in the world. They tell us where we fit.
It's how we navigate society. But the stack of research we're looking at today argues that those labels, they aren't the location. They're actually the map that's hiding the territory.
Exactly. And that is what we're getting into today. We are doing a deep dive into a text called The Universal Grammar of Divine Consciousness.
Okay.
And what just hooked me immediately was this central idea, this premise, that if you strip away all the surface level stuff,
The rituals, the hats, the holidays.
the architecture, all of it, religions are actually just different languages describing the exact same underlying mechanism.
It's a linguistic metaphor, and it's a really powerful one. The text suggests that, a Christian mystic and maybe a Vedantic sage, they might use totally different words.
Different nouns and verbs.
Totally. But the grammar, the actual structural rules of how they connect with the divine, is identical.
And I want to be clear, we're not just talking about some vague, all paths lead to the top of the mountain kind of platitude here.
No, this is more technical.
Way more technical. We're looking at some incredibly specific parallels between Christian mysticism and Eastern philosophy, specifically focusing on the work of Sri Yukteswar Giri.
And this is really an exercise in translation. Our mission today is to decode that grammar, to see if we can find the scientific unity between things that on the surface seem miles apart, like the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita.
So let's start with the geography of it. If you're looking for the divine, where do you even look? The source material opens with this section on the inner kingdom, and it goes straight to Luke 17.21.
The kingdom of God is within you.
Now, I grew up hearing that in Sunday school, and it usually just meant, be a good person on the inside.
Have good thoughts, be kind.
Exactly. But this text argues that we have completely, totally underestimated how literal that statement is.
We really have, in a lot of Western institutional thought, God is directional. He's up there, out there, a separate entity just watching us from a distance.
Right.
But the text connects Luke 17.21 directly to the Vedantic concept of Tat Tivam Asi.
Which translates to that thou art.
Correct. And the implication of that is massive. It shifts the whole paradigm from, say, devotion to identity.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Tat Tivam Asi means the divine isn't something you find, it is what you are at your core. The text argues that when Jesus said the kingdom is within, he wasn't being poetic about feelings. He was pointing to the exact same internal reality that the rishis in India were.
It's an inward collapse of distance. You stop looking out the window for it and you start looking in the mirror. And this brings us to St. Paul, who's a huge figure in this analysis. The source quotes Galatians, "I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me."
This is such a crucial piece of the grammar. If we're talking about sentence structure, this is the syntax of enlightenment, according to this text.
Because usually that verse is read as a statement of surrender. Like, I'm doing this for Jesus, I'm giving up my Saturday to volunteer.
Right, a behavioral thing.
Yeah, but the text frames this as a technical description of ego death.
Exactly. Look at the sentence again. It is no longer I who live. The I, the personality, the preferences, the history, the little self that likes pizza and hates traffic.
Me.
Your me has stopped driving the car. St. Paul is describing a vacuum, the ego's gone. And because nature abhors a vacuum, something else rushes in to fill that space. He calls it Christ.
But in the context of this universal grammar,
Yeah.
Christ here isn't just the historical person, Jesus of Nazareth.
No. And that's a vital distinction the source makes. Here, Christ is a term for a state of consciousness. A yogi would call it universal consciousness, or Brahman.
The label changes.
The label changes, but the mechanism is the same. The small self has to die for the big self to emerge.
It reminds me of that idea in, like, home renovation.
Ah.
You can't move the new furniture in until you get all the old junk out.
That is a perfect analogy. St. Paul is saying he cleared the entire house.
Wow.
And to really drive this home, that this is a structural rule of spirituality and not just a Christian thing, the source brings in Meister Eckhart, the German mystic.
Oh, this quote.
And this quote, honestly, it just stops me in my tracks every single time I read it.
The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me.
It just dissolves the observer.
It is so mind-bending. Because normally I think, okay, here's my eye physically in my head, and I am looking at a tree, or I'm looking for God. There's a me and a that, two separate things.
Right, that's duality. That's the standard operating system of human consciousness. But Eckhart is describing something else, what the yogis call sakshibhav,
Witness consciousness.
witness consciousness. He's saying that the consciousness looking out of your eyes right now, it isn't really yours in the way you think it is. It's God's. There is only one seer in the entire universe.
So when I'm looking for God, it's the universe trying to look at itself in a mirror.
Precisely. And that shift from being the looker to realizing you are the looking, that's the core of this universal grammar. It's not about seeing something new, it's about realizing who is doing the seeing.
Okay, so we've established the grammar, we have this internal geography. But now let's get to the scientist who tried to map all of this out. The text introduces us to Sri Yukteswar Giri.
A fascinating figure. A master Kriya yogi, late 19th, early 20th century. And he wrote this seminal book called The Holy Science, or in Sanskrit, Kaivalya Darshanam.
And his project was, incredibly ambitious. He wasn't just saying, hey, these religions are friends, let's all get along.
No.
He wanted to actually prove, that the Bible and Sankhya Yoga, which is this ancient, rigorous Indian philosophy, are describing the exact same laws of nature.
He treated spirituality as a hard science. He believed that spiritual progression follows laws that are just as reliable as gravity or, thermodynamics.
And he showed this by decoding the terminology.
Yeah.
This is where the deep dive gets really wild.
Yeah.
Because his reinterpretation of biblical terms is radical.
It completely flips the script on how I was ever taught to understand the terms Son of Man and Son of God.
Me too.
Yeah.
Right. In a standard church setting, Son of Man is usually about Jesus's humanity, his physical body.
And Son of God is his divinity. It's all about him, the historical figure.
But Sri Yukteswar says, no, these are not just titles for one person. They are technical terms for states of consciousness that you possess, that we all possess.
He explains that Son of Man represents the ego, or in Sanskrit, ahamkar.
Ahamkar. That's literally the eye maker, right?
Yes. It's the mechanism that identifies with the body. When you pinch your arm and you say, ouch, that happened to me, that is the Son of Man. It's consciousness trapped in the sensory world, identified with the flesh.
Okay, so then, Son of God.
Son of God represents Kutasa Chaitanya.
Let's break that term down because that is a mouthful.
It is. So Kutasa means something that is immutable, rock steady, unmoving, like an anvil. And Chaitanya is just consciousness.
The Christ consciousness.
It's the Christ consciousness, the intelligent, unmoving spirit that underlies the constantly shifting reality of the physical world.
Okay, so the Son of Man is like the movie playing on the screen. It's changing, it's dramatic, emotional, there are explosions, romance.
And the Son of God is the screen itself. White, pristine, totally unaffected by the movie.
A perfect visualization. You can burn down a whole city in the movie, but the screen doesn't get hot.
Right. Sri Yukteswar argues that the Bible isn't just history, it's a manual for moving your identity from the movie to the screen. When the Bible talks about the Son of Man becoming the Son of God, it's describing the path of yoga.
So the journey isn't geographical. It's not walking from Galilee to Jerusalem.
No.
It's the transition from being trapped in the ego to realizing your identity as universal consciousness. The text is basically saying, who am I? The journey is from Son of Man to Son of God.
And that completely democratizes the experience. It means Christ consciousness isn't something you just worship from afar. It's a frequency you can actually tune into. It's a state of being that's accessible to the human nervous system.
Now, Sri Yukteswar doesn't stop with identity. He goes into physics, or maybe the physics of sound. This section on universal vibration really surprised me because it shows just how literal he was being.
It connects the internal state to the external structure of the universe itself. The source asserts that creation wasn't built out of like Lego blocks or particles at first.
It was built out of vibration.
Vibration, the word.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God.
Exactly, that logos. And the text provides this cross-cultural comparison of this word that is just startling when you see it all laid out. It lists how different traditions describe the sound of that creative force.
So you have the Bible, which uses Amen.
Which we say at the end of every prayer, so be it.
Then you've got the Vedas in India,
Ah,
the primal sound,
Guru Nanak and the Sikh tradition,
Alinkar,
and then the Sufi mystics in Islam.
Amin.
Amen. Omkar. Amen.
I mean, if you just strip away the accents, the regional dialects, and just listen to the phonetics, you're hearing the same sound.
It's a hum. A-N-O-M. It's a resonance.
The source argues this isn't some linguistic coincidence. It's not that these cultures borrowed the word from each other. It's that they all independently tuned into the same frequency.
Wow.
Sri Yukteswar asserts that the universe has this background hum, a primal vibration that actually sustains matter.
Like the hum of an engine. Exactly like the hum of an engine. If you go deep enough into meditation, beyond the thoughts, beyond the sensory noise, the text claims you literally hear this vibration. The Christians called it the Holy Ghost, or the Word. The Rishis called it Om. But they were all listening to the same motor running.
That's incredible to think about. We fight wars over the correct religion, over whose book is right. But the very word we use to close our prayers, the seal of our faith, is basically the same word our enemies are using.
It just highlights the tragedy of focusing on the container instead of the content. If you analyze the grammar, the subject and the verb are the same. We just use different nouns. We're fighting over the packaging while consuming the exact same product.
So if the sound is the same, and the goal, that shift from ego to divine, is the same,
Yeah.
what's the problem? Why aren't we all walking around a state of bliss?
Right. Why is it so hard?
Yeah,
Well, because of the Great Barrier. The text is very clear that there is one major obstacle,
the source calls it avidya.
avidya. And it's usually translated as ignorance. But we have to be really careful with that word. In English, ignorance just implies a lack of data. Like, I'm ignorant of the capital of France.
Right, I just need to read a book or watch a YouTube video and I'm fixed.
Exactly. But avidya is different. It's existential ignorance. It's not that you don't know facts, it's that you are actively ignoring your true nature. You are hallucinating that you're separate.
A case of mistaken identity.
That's it.
There.
Sri Yukteswar writes that this ignorance is the only wall separating humans from the divine. We think we're the wave, but we're actually the ocean.
And we're ignoring the wetness.
We're ignoring the wetness, yes.
And once that wall of ignorance comes down, the destination has all these different names. The text lists them out like a travel brochure for the soul. The Bible calls it salvation,
Sikhism calls it Sachkhand, the realm of truth.
and yoga calls it kaivalya.
Kaivalya means oneness or aloneness, but not in a lonely way, in the sense that there is only one thing, absolute unity.
And what's fascinating is how the text describes the method of getting there. It's always a process of subtraction. It's never about gaining something new. It's about removing the obstruction.
That's the common enemy. And the source breaks this down so beautifully across the traditions. In Vedanta, you don't build the Atman, the soul. The soul is already there, fully formed. You just have to remove the avidya that's covering it.
It's like cleaning the dust off a mirror. The reflection is already perfect. You just can't see it because of the grime.
That's it. In Sufism, the instruction is to burn the veil, which is the ego, to find Allah. In Sikhism, you have to kill Hamai, the ego, the pride, to find Ikonkar.
And all the way back to Christianity and St. Paul. You must empty the self so the divine can fill you.
It's a demolition project. You have to tear down the false ego, the me, to find the truth that's underneath. The text explicitly says, the enemy of all thousands of paths is the same, the false ego.
It's the I that thinks it's separate from the universe, the I that gets offended, the I that wants to be right, the I that needs to be better than the neighbor.
And this brings us to the final section of the source material, which I found so powerful. It's titled The Grammar of Peace. because this moves the whole conversation out of the meditation cave and, into the real world.
Right. We live in a world that is anything but peaceful. And usually when we talk about world peace, we talk about treaties, borders, politics.
We talk about managing people, and the source takes a very firm stance here. It argues that peace can never be achieved through politics alone.
Why not?
Because politics just manages the interactions between false egos.
It manages the friction between us and them. It's trying to keep one son of man from killing another son of man.
Exactly. Politics assumes the border is real and tries to negotiate across it. But this spiritual grammar says the border itself is the illusion.
So real peace requires that identity shift we talked about at the beginning.
Precisely. The text says, when one asks, who am I, the labels of Hindu, Muslim, or Christian fall away. If you go deep enough into that question, you don't find a nationality, you don't find a voter registration card, you find consciousness.
The source uses this beautiful image. It says, consciousness is like the sky. It belongs to no country. You can't fence off a piece of the sky and say, this is American sky, or this is Indian sky.
It's just sky.
It's just sky. And that's the definition of Kaivalya. That's the universal grammar.
The argument is that as long as we identify with the wall, the brick and mortar, the specific dogma, we will always have conflict. The moment we realize that the I in me is the exact same phenomenon as the I in you.
Conflict becomes impossible.
You can't fight yourself. You wouldn't punch your own face. If you realize the other person is just you in a different guise, violence becomes nonsensical.
The walls exist in ignorance, not in brick and mortar places of worship. That's the line that really stuck with me. It puts all the responsibility right back on us. It's not about converting to a new religion. It's about understanding the grammar of the one you already have, or just the grammar of being human.
It connects right back to that scientific synthesis Sri Yukteswar was trying to build. He wasn't trying to create a new cult. He was showing that the spiritual experience is a universal human constant, governed by laws just as real as gravity. The law of ego, the law of vibration, the law of unity.
It really reframes the whole idea of being spiritual. It's not about retreating from the world or being passive. It's about recognizing that every single person you meet is basically running the same software, just with a different user interface.
And that recognition is the only foundation for sustainable peace. As the text concludes, the enemy isn't the person across the border. The enemy is the avidya, the ignorance that makes us think there even is a border in consciousness to begin with.
So what does this all mean for us? For you listening to this on the commute or while you're doing dishes? I mean, these are huge cosmic concepts.
Right.
But the source suggests this is actually really practical.
It means that the question, who am I, isn't just a philosophical puzzle to solve when you're bored. It's a practical tool for emotional regulation.
I know so.
It's a tool to de-escalate the ego. When you feel that defensiveness rising, that need to be right, that assertion of the son of man, you remember the grammar.
You catch yourself.
You catch yourself, and you ask, who is currently upset? Is it the witness, or is it the ego?
And 9 times out of 10, the witness is just watching the ego throw a tantrum.
Exactly. The Son of God, the Kutastha, never gets upset. It just observes. So the whole practice is to just shift your identification, to step back into the witness seat.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the universal grammar of divine consciousness. We've gone from the Bible to the Vedas, from the sound of Amen to the sound of Om.
And realize they're all pointing at the same moon. It's a reminder that while the languages of faith are many, the grammar of the spirit is singular.
So I want to leave you with a thought to mull over today. We talked about Meister Eckhart saying the eye with which he sees God is the same eye with which God sees him.
The dissolution of the observer.
Right. So the next time you're walking down the street and you make eye contact with a stranger, ask yourself this: are you looking at them? Or is the universe just looking at itself through both of you?
That is a question worth sitting with.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.